All right, let's talk about the second game here on Saturday. It is the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. This has moved in favor of the Bills. It moved against the Bills, and then it moved in favor of the Bills. This thing opened at 3, got down to 2.5, got down to 2 in some spots, back up to 2.5 yesterday. And as we sit here right now, Brett, this thing has moved back up to 3 at DraftKings. It's moved back up to 3 at MGM. You can still find 2.5 at FanDuel and PointsBet if you are looking to find the 2.5 on the Bills. If you're looking for the full 3 on the Ravens, you're going to want to head over to DraftKings or to Bet MGM. We got a total of 49.5. This thing is ticked down from 50.5. So again, I think the weather report has come out, which has maybe had this thing tick down just a little bit. First and foremost, you're there, you're in the city. What is the latest on, what does the weather look like right now? What is the weather supposed to look like whenever we come Sunday?
Generally, you try not to guess these things because you just don't know what it's going to look like come Sunday. I think we're here on Friday, and I don't really know. I mean, we're looking at possible gusts up to like 30 miles per hour, which is going to impact this game, obviously, for the Bills, who love to throw the ball downfield. Josh Allen is a guy you want to have in those conditions because he can pierce through the wind with that arm, but at the same time, it's going to impact how both teams operate. So that's something to keep an eye on as we get closer to kickoff on Saturday night, is what this weather is going to be. But yeah, right now I'm not sure what it's going to be.
Yeah, if we're looking at a couple of these guys that do this, they're trying to say, temperatures around freezing, chance of snow. Winds about 15 to 20 miles an hour with gusts around 30. So, listen, if there was ever a game where this doesn't, and Brad, maybe I'm off here. You let me know if you're factoring the weather into this game. But if there's ever a game where I'm not really too incredibly worried about the weather, it would be this one. In one, a dude with a rifle rocket for an arm in Josh Allen, and then a team in the Ravens that doesn't throw the ball anyway. So it's like you got one team that doesn't throw the ball and one team with a guy with the strongest arm in the league, to where I'm kind of like, okay, unless this thing gets egregiously out of hand. I mean, I know we do start to watch the wind when it gets to 15, 20 miles an hour consistently, which is what, at least the early forecast is saying. But again, if there was ever a game where that might be less impactful, I don't know. This seems like that might be that game.
Yeah, so Lamar was talking this week, I think he was saying he hopes it doesn't snow. He doesn't want to play in the snow. He's never thrown the ball in that kind of cold weather. I think he's a Florida kid. But his numbers don't actually back that up. Again, going back to that kind of EPA per play in temperatures below 40, he's just as good in those conditions. And Josh Allen, as you say, he's got a cannon to throw it through anything. You would say perhaps that the Bills are better passing the ball and they're bad at stopping the run. So if it was bad enough that it did force both teams to the ground, you've got to say that'll favour the Ravens. But as it stands, it looks like it should be. It's just on the edge of fine, I think, is what we'd say at the minute.
All right, Brett. So we're looking at 2.5 or 3. And like we said, the total has ticked down a little bit, 49.5. So, I think that the two big questions in this game are, one, how often are the Bills going to be able to take advantage of those corners for the Ravens? Now, they're good, but they're risk takers. They're dudes that are super aggressive. And, you look no further than Marcus Peters, right? Like he has 4 picks this year on balls of 10-plus yards down the field, but he also has given up 5 touchdowns on passes of 10-plus yards down the field as well. As his aggressiveness, the way that he plays, he's like, yeah, I'll go for the pick, but if you don't get the pick, sometimes that equals big plays. Sometimes that equals touchdowns that be given up. We saw Marlon Humphrey get picked on early last week by Tannehill and A.J. Brown, and for whatever reason, they decided to get back away from that and pound Derrick Henry into the line for 2.2 yards per carry repeatedly over and over again, which, again, we've seen some of these coaches make just head-scratching decisions for time and time again. But Marlon Humphrey, another guy that, teams have attacked. These guys have seen some of the most amount of targets so far this year because I think teams do look into this thing and say, okay, yeah, they're going to make some plays, but as aggressive as they are, we're also going to get some back from these guys as well. Josh Allen, as well equipped as anybody to try and take advantage of all that. How do you see this pass game matching up with this really talented, but again, super aggressive secondary for the Ravens?
I can't wait to watch this. The Ravens blitz more than any team in the NFL and rely on these corners, like you said, to make plays. It's a very high variance defense facing off against a very high variance Josh Allen passing offense. If this was 2019 Josh Allen, this would greatly favor the Ravens. Like the Baltimore came in here last year as 6.5-point road favorites and covered. But this is a wiser, more developed Josh Allen, who has shredded very similar defenses to the Ravens this year. The Steelers, Dolphins twice. Both those teams bring heavy blitzes from a lot of angles, and Brian Daboll has put Allen in position to succeed against those defenses, and he thrived. So it'll be very interesting to see if Allen can do that again here. On the other side of the ball, though, this is a pretty good matchup for Baltimore offensively. The Bills funnel everything to the middle of the field where these linebackers really struggle covering, and the Bills don't get any leverage up front in the run game either. Look at the PFF grades on some of these Bills players in the middle of the field. Ed Oliver, 47. Edmonds, 47. Milano, 55. These guys have been terrible this year. And like I said, this is where Baltimore really feasts on defenses. A guy like Mark Andrews specifically, the rushing offense has really found its groove over the past 2 months, and the Bills just continue to struggle against the run and against tight ends. So, I mean, if the Ravens can keep the Bills off the field, the Bills offense off the field and out of rhythm, they can win this football game. And I think, I capped this game at 1. I think, now let's move to 3. I think this is an auto bet for me. If I can get 3 right now, that's definitely where I'm leaning with the Ravens getting the points.
Yeah, I'll skip ahead here because it was a topic that you just hit on. Mark Andrews over 54.5 receiving yards was one of the very first bets I put into my account as soon as that hit. Like you said, no matter what the game script is in this situation, Mark Andrews is going to be a very major factor in this game, right? Like whether they're playing from ahead, they're still going to have to use him to continue and keep these drives going. And whether they're playing from behind, he's still going to own the middle of the field. Like you mentioned, Brett, I mean, like the one thing about this defense was they were able to move the ball at will last week, Phillip Rivers, to like 9 different tight ends. I don't know how many tight ends the Colts carry, but it seemed like it was a new tight end every goddamn play catching a ball. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous. So, Mark
16 targets, 14 completions to tight ends last week.
So Mark Andrews over 54.5 yards was one of the very first plays I put into my account. If it's still available it is available at DraftKings. It's juiced right now, but you could look around. I'm sure it's available at one of the other books. It's not juiced as heavily, but I still love that price. So, Brad, the other big question here outside of the Bills pass offense versus the secondary for the Ravens is going to be the Ravens rush offense versus the Bills rush defense. We saw the Ravens go for 236 yards on the ground last week. We've seen this Ravens team basically own these bad run defenses over the past month and a half of the season. They were basically established that kind of what they want to do, that old Ravens way that we saw last year as well. And teams were not able to defend it. Basically, the emergence of J.K. Dobbins going ahead and just making Mark Ingram inactive because he's just kind of there now, like giving that more explosive look here. And then you have the power guy more in the Gus Edwards whenever they need that hard 2 or 3 yards. And so what do we see here in this Ravens rush offense versus this Bills rush defense?
I think it's not as bad as it looks on paper. Obviously, as you kind of laid out, you've got this best rush offense in the league against a Bills run defense, which is second worst in EPA allowed. So it looks bad, but I think that's kind of a choice. The Bills they play light boxes, kind of I think 8th most in the league there. So they want you to run because they know on the other side they're going to score 30 points. They want you to run for 4.5 yards a clip instead of passing for 7.5. And so I think they can change that essentially. They're not going to leave 6 in the box against Lamar because I don't think they're worried about being beat by the wide receivers. I think Trey White can take out Hollywood Brown. I do agree Mark Andrews is a threat, but then I think they can commit numbers to the middle of the field to clog it up and to stop the run. Brett mentioned that game last year where the Ravens did cover, but they only got 257 total yards at 4.4 yards a clip. So we know the Bills know how to stop this. I mean, that was when the Ravens had a much better offensive line, when they're in, absolute God mode, stomping everyone by 50 points, and they put up 250 yards. So I do think coaching is key against Lamar, because he's such a unique talent, and this offense is so unique that it's not, can you stop the run? Can you stop, the Titans running? Because that's a normal. It's a completely different offense, and I think coaching matters more. And I think Sean McDermott is a coaching. He's one of the best defensive coaches in the league. So I do think they can keep them to kind of 20 as the Titans did last week. And then I do like the matchup for the Bills. I think, as Brett said, the Ravens they blitz the most in the league, and they play the most man heavy in the league. But Josh Allen is A, superb against man, and B, superb against the blitz. I've got the numbers here, one sec. Josh Allen, the league's best quarterback against man coverage, according to Sports Info Solutions, and third in EPA per snap against the blitz. So if the Ravens do what they usually do, there's a good chance they get toasted. The Bills love that double move as well. As you said, the cornerbacks are aggressive. They like to jump routes. The Bills love to throw little sluggo, little pump fake and go. So there could be some big plays on the outside for them. So I think if they play the way they usually do, I think the Bills can have some luck. But then I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens also saw that and played a lot of zone, a bit like the Colts did, and said, go up and down the field against us in 12 plays and be patient. I think that's probably the smarter way to play this. And I think Wink Martindale is a smart coach, so maybe they change it up completely, which is the risk of we don't know what we don't know here.
Yeah, for what we do know, it's just, for me, when you play an offensive style like the Ravens play, you basically have to play perfect, right? And that's the thing, is against a team like the Bills, because these long, these running methodical drives that Lamar and them do. I mean, we assume Lamar will break one big run. He does every single game. So they'll probably get a nice, huge chunk play at least once or twice this game. But typically they're okay with, marching the ball down the field, methodical drives, stuff like that. Well, the problem is when you get to these drives and you've done all this stuff about, milking the clock and doing all this, if it ends up in a field goal or it ends up in no points, the Bills are going to score. You basically have to hit every single time when you play like the Ravens play, right? And then when you have an offense that can move the ball as quickly as the Bills do, you don't have to play necessarily perfectly, because the next time you get the ball, you can still quick strike. You can still be back in the game. If you happen to fall down, you can still get ahead in the game really quickly, if the game is in situation neutral. And so, just the style of play here, I know everybody's all over the Ravens this week. Call me square, call me whatever the hell you want to call me. I don't really care. I like the Bills a lot in this game. I think that the matchup here with the corners, they're going to win some battles. They might even pick Allen, a time or two in this game, but they're also going to lose some big plays. And Steph Diggs is going to have some huge gains here. Gabriel Davis, John Brown, and then the chain mover in Cole Beasley underneath whenever they need to get some 6 or 7 yards or something like that. I like the Bills a lot in this scenario. I like them. If you want to play the money line, you can do that if you're a little worried about the spread whatsoever. But I think the Bills, I think they could end up actually even rolling in this game, if that sounds. And Brett, not trying to get you too excited over there, but I do. I think there's a chance they could end up rolling in this game if things go a little bit south for this Ravens team.
I do hope you're right. I would obviously rather them advance than win my bet, but I do think the Ravens are going to be able to keep this close. So I still. I mean, is this one in your account already? Is it's getting closer to 3?
So I'll tell you how I played this game, and this isn't. Look, I'm an unconventional bettor. You guys have been watching this podcast long enough, and you guys have been listening to this stuff long enough. It's an unconventional. I think that this is a touchdown or less game to me. And so I have a Packers Ravens teaser where I have the Packers down to 1 and the Ravens up to 8.5, and then I also have a money line bet on the Bills. So
you just said the Bills could roll.
So but I already have this. Listen, I already had this teaser leg in my account here. I mean, I'm saying the more likely scenario of the Ravens rolling the Bills, the Bills rolling the Ravens, it would be the Bills rolling the Ravens as opposed to the other way around. And so, yeah, so I have a teaser leg of the Ravens at plus 8.5, and then I also have a money line bet on the Bills. And so I think the Bills win the game. I think the Bills win the game somewhere in that touchdown range, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting with this one again. Oh, and the Mark Andrews, of course. And guys, again, that is available at DraftKings. There's some, the juice is there, but it's not horrible yet. So try and get to it. I believe that, no, under any game circumstance that you're going to see Mark Andrews have a pretty good time out there. So something to think about there as well.